Hey guys, welcome to /X Games. A while back, I went over GameMaker's built-in any file functions, and I had some really great feedback from you guys. It was excellent. So now I'd like to go over something even better. Yes, you heard me. It's better than the GameMaker built-in functions. It's really terrific. It's made by a guy called Revel. This is as far as I know. He's on the GameMaker Yo-Yo Games forum, and he's made this DLL in C++, which I also really like C++. It's called AnyLibGM DLL. It's quite a mouthful, but looking at all these statistics, it's at least 10 times, 8 to 10 times faster than GameMaker's built-in functions. It's really, really good, and I personally use this one instead of the built-in functions, just because of its sheer power and a few other things that I will explain to you now. So, I have got a file here. I've named it the Introduction to Rini File Management DLL, and I will be bundling this all up into like a zip. It'll have this, it'll have the scripts, it'll have the DLL itself. Thank you, Revel, by the way. So you can just download that and you'll have everything you need to learn some cool stuff. So, here we go, we got this thing. Let me explain what I see right now. I've got scripts. The only scripts I've got here is script hover. That's the one that changes the sprite image depending on if the mouse is touching it or not. Okay, so we know that. Sprites, I got sprite title, login, exit, register, logout, and the cursor. So I thought that the best way to explain to you how this differs from GameMaker's built-in functions is to have like a mock login registry system. I don't know, that an MMO would use. Alright, so the rooms, we've got room main, which has, there we go, it's got the heading, it's got login, it's got register, it's got exit, and then in-game, whatever happens after that, all that, okay? And this has, let me see, does it have a button? No, we can put the logout button there. Just, there we go. Okay, and objects, object title, login, exit, register, logout, and the cursor that follows the mouse. That's cool. So firstly, let's see here. Register. When the user clicks register button, it's going to say, hey, you'd like to register, enter a username, enter a password, there you go, you now may log in, and then the user enters that same information every time to log in. And then it's the game, well, the application, it's more like an application at that stage, like checks out the ini file, sees if everything is the same as what the user types in, and then it goes into the game. So let's go control. Let's add some code here. We're going to say, let's think. Remember, it can only create an account if that username is available, and the best way to do so is to name the file, the ini file, by the username. And if the file exists at that username, then we cannot create another one, and we'll just tell them that that username is already taken, and please enter something else. So let's start with something called name available. Okay, we're going to set that to false. We're just going to assume that everything they enter is false when we start. Now, it's going to keep prompting the user for a new username unless it works. So we can use a while loop here, and we're going to say while a name available, okay, equals false. So while it's false, we're going to keep prompting the user to give us a name. Name equals getString, and it's going to say here like enter your desired username. Okay, enter your desired username. It's easy as that, and it needs a default value to say player1. Someone will probably push enter and then accidentally create a username player1, but anyway, not my problem. So now we're going to say, well, is it available? So if file exists, and if this file has, I don't know, like something like, I'm just going to do something like this, shows me that this ini file is a player account or whatever, player plus name that they entered over here, player plus name, then obviously plus, oops, dot ini. Alright, so about that. If file exists, player, right, and it has that name in it over there, the name that they entered, then we can tell them that we're going to say show message, and we're going to say this username already exists. Okay, we're going to say this username already exists. What are you doing? How dare you try to register the same username? And name available is still false. Okay, so we wanted to go through the while loop again. If file does not exist, so we got an else there, then here we're just going to set name available equals true. Right? So it's going to get to the end of this else. It's going to say, well, name available is true, and then it goes back to while and says, well, name available equals false, which it doesn't. It's going to go out. It's going to skip all that and go exit the while loop. And here we're going to say password equals get string. Okay. And here we're going to say enter your desired password. Okay. So we've got the username. We're getting their password. We're going to give them some random digits there, just a couple of zeros. They're going to get a password. It doesn't matter if people have the same passwords. Yeah, it's up to them. It's no one else. And now we're going to save all this information that we've just gathered into an any file. So I'm going to first show you the GameMaker's built-in any file function, and then I'm going to show you the Rini DLL equivalent. Okay, so let's begin. So firstly, we'd say something like any open. We'd open the any. We're going to say where is it? So it's pretty much that. There. It's the player, the name, the any. Right. Then we're going to say here what any write string. Okay, and section's going to be profile, and then username. Oh, gotta put that like that, and then we're going to say name. So that's where it's going to store their name, and then any write string. The same. We can just copy this like such, and change that with password. And don't forget to close your Rinis. Always close them. So it opens that, it writes the name and the password. Oh, this is going to be password. Okay. Writes name to username, password to password. And then once it's done all that, we're going to tell them to log in. So show message, and it's going to say something polite like, you may now log in. Very nice. Well done! Exclamation point. Okay. So once all that's done and it's created the username, no problems, no errors, it's going to say you may now log in. Alright, so let's test this out. Alright, so we've got the awesome game title, we've got the login, the register, and the exit. So if we click register, it's going to say enter your desired username. So we're going to say Bob. And we say okay. Desired password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. You may now log in, Bob. Now if we go look at the folder, here we see player bob.ini. And it's saved profile. Username is Bob, password equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, so that's cool. Let's see if we can register another player called Bob. Ah, it says the username already exists, and it's going to prompt us for another username. So we're going to say Billy. Okay, and Billy's password is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to say Sam, and Sam's password is going to be 54321. Now here's the problem with doing all this. See, when everyone makes an account and using GameMaker's built-in functions, it's saving all of these to the working directory that the executable's in. It has to be like that. That's one of the prerequisites. If you want to save an any file using GM's built-in GameMaker functions, you have to save it in the same folder, which is irritating because this is going to get cluttered. Imagine having like, I don't know, 100 different usernames, and then right at the bottom you've got your executable. It's just going to look extremely messy. So this is where Revel's Rini DLL comes in. It enables us to not only read and write up to 8 to 10 times faster. If my math is correct, I think it's about that. 8 to 10 times faster. Not only that, but also we can make a folder called players, and we can put all the stuff in that folder. It tidies things up. We know exactly where the player accounts are. They're all in a folder called profiles or player or whatever, and it keeps us clean. So that's one of the things I love about it, really, even more than the speed difference. So let's go back to here. Let's exit this. Let's go back to button register. Okay, so let's use the Rini stuff. But first, I think I need to create the scripts in. Yeah, let's go add the scripts back here. Scripts.gml, we're going to just grab those and put them in there. There we go. Okay, so we've added those now. Back to button register. Alright, let's go back in here. Now, let's comment all of this out. We don't like this. It's messy, it's slow. Let's see what the Rini equivalent is. So according to the scripts here, the first one says Rini init, which is short for initialize, and ultimately you've got to run Rini init, or init, yes, with 0 arguments before you call any of the Rini functions. So here we go. It just gets the DLL there. It has to make sure your DLL is in the same directory as your executable. and then it calls all these functions. It adds them to the global stuff, and when you call one of these, then it just calls that one, right? Okay, so first remember, before you use them, initialize the DLL. Then we've got Rini open, Rini close, write. Write is called by the close function, so you don't have to actually call this one yourself. You just call close, and then it does all the writing, whatever. Read real, read string, write real, write string. It's the same as the generic any file functions. Section exists, key, rename. So these are a few things. You can rename keys, you can rename sections, you can delete keys. That's the same. It's called a section delete. That one's great. You can delete an entire section, which is pretty interesting. Okay, so let's do this. First, we have to call Rini init, yeah, just like that. Initialize it. Now that we've initialized it, now we're going to say, well, with GM's built-in ones, you just say any open, and then you put that there. Now that's not the way that the Rini files work. With the Rini files, you have to make a path and give that path name to a variable. So here we're going to say file. All right, file equals Rini open. And then this is where we put everything. We put everything in there. And once we've done that, we assign, well, once we've assigned that path to that variable, then we use it. Now if we go back here to this while loop when we were actually creating the player account, where we weren't, we were just getting the strings and stuff. Yes, we were. Okay, we don't have to worry about that just now. So let's go back down here. So, file equals Rini open, and where do we want it to be? Now, we want it to be in a subdirectory, away from our executable. So we say working directory, because we don't know where someone's going to put this. So we're going to say working directory. Then we're going to have plus and profiles. Let's make sure it's like that. There we go. Profiles backslash player. Okay. Then we're going to add that. We're going to say plus name plus dot ini. Do that and that. Close that off. Very good, that's all done. Okay, so saying the file variable is this pathway, working directory plus profiles. See there, that's going to be our subfolder, and then profiles name ini. That's the actual ini file. Okay, so we've assigned that to the variable file. Now here we're going to say Rini write string. Okay, now the first piece of information, first argument here is the file. Where do we want to write this to? We want to write it to file, which we've assigned that directory. Okay, next, the section, profile, exactly the same. Okay, then we've got where, we've got username, we can just copy this. Copy that in there, that'll work. Profile, username, name. Alright, and we're going to do the same for Rini write string over here. Profile, password, okay, and password. Very good. Once that's done, I also want to add something very specific for MMOs that I like to use. It's going to be, again, Rini. Let's do this again. Rini write string, file profile. Here, it's going to be called status. And ultimately, first it's going to be set to offline. When you log in, it's going to change to online. Let's just add more functions and stuff. And then what we're going to say now is Rini close. Pretty much exactly the same as GM's built-in any file functions. Very similar, so you won't have any problem changing to them and changing all your normal any code. Alright, so now if we go back here to the top, we were checking the file exists player, but this is just checking in the working directory. We want to check further than that, so we're going to take this, copy it into that, get rid of that, and that. No, we need two of those. Alright, so file exists, working directory, profiles, player, name, etc. There we go. It'll come up with an error. Alright, and login. So now let's test this out. Just make sure that it's all 100% good. 100% good. Yeah, I think it looks good. Username, we're going to go, blah, blah, blah. Yes, profile, writing the username, writing the password. Also, I'm going to go back here and delete all these. Cool thing about this function also is not only does it create the ini files themselves, it also creates subfolders. So now as soon as the first person registers, it'll create the subfolder profiles. You'll see that pop up. So let's go okay. Let's play this. Okay, so we've got the awesome game title. We're going to click register, Register bill. Okay, and his password 1234. Okay, you may now log in. Alright, so let's go back to the folder. Check that out. Folder called profiles has been created, and then player bill, password 1234, status offline, username bill. Now, the one thing I don't exactly like about the Rini DLL here is that it puts things in alphabetical order. I mean, it's not a big thing, it's just sometimes, I mean, I personally like it as username, password, then status, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. It's not a big train smash. So now if we create another user, it's going to add it to this, so let's create another user. We're going to say Sam, and Sam is incredibly creative with his passwords. And there we go, player Sam. See, easy, 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 easy. So now let's code that login button. Right, let's close all these, don't need that, login. Alright, let's go add left pressed. Okay, there we go. I'm going to say global name equals get string, and you're going to say username. Okay, so it's like enter your username, and we're going to say blank. Okay, so it's going to get the username when they click it, and it's going to say if. So remember, in the past when we checked if the file existed, then we'd say, hey, you can't register because this file's already taken. Now we're going to say that if the file does not exist, then clearly you can't register. I mean, you can't log in, you need to first register. So if file does not exist, alright, and I think that was working directory. We might still have it. Yeah, we still have it in the clipboard, so that's great. Working directory, Revel's player name. But here I'm going to change that to global name, because that's what we've asked them to put in. Global name. Very good. Very good. So if it doesn't exist, we're going to show a message. And our message is going to say, let's see. You boob. You need to register first. Yeah? How dare you attempt to log in and you don't have an account? Okay, so that's saying, hey, we cannot find this username. Clearly you have not registered, and you should do so. Right? Okay, so else, if it does exist, this is where the meat and potatoes comes in right here. Okay, so if it does exist, here we're going to say, and we're going to initialize the DLL again. Then we're going to say file equals, and running open, and that working directory. That must be global.name. There we go. Got that all in there. Yeah, that's all good. That's all good. And we're going to say temp status. And we're going to say temp. Whoops. Temp password. Temp status equals Rini read string. Where do we want to read the string from? And we say file. And we say what section? Profile. Oh, whoops, don't mix these. And then we say status, and by default offline. Okay, then the next one, oh, what is this saying? What? Show message, you boob, it's alright. Ah, whoops. Okay, that's the same as this. I'm going to read the password because we need to check if it's the same when they type something in. Original capital S for status. Yes, it was. Very good, very good. And password's going to be blank. Yeah, so it's going to open that, it's going to read some stuff in, and then it's going to really close this up. Always close it, don't forget. Okay, then we're going to say here, if temp status equals online. So if the user is actually online, then it means you've got their password somehow, but they're logged in luckily. So we're going to say something here. We're going to say show message. This user is already logged in. Okay. Doesn't really matter. User's already logged in, so you cannot log in on the same account. else. So if this user isn't logged in, it means there. Well, you can log in. Well done. Good for you. Let's do that. Let's say password equals get string. Enter password. Okay. Default value of nothing. So that'll get their password. Now we're gonna check if their password is equal to temp password that we read from their user file. Okay, and here we're going to say file equals, I mean we've already initialized it here, it's in the same thing, so we don't have to initialize it again. We're going to say this file equals that again, and ultimately we're going to be changing, I'm going to say here, any Rini write string, and we're going to say file profile, okay, status, and we're going to set that to online. Okay, so they've logged in, so it's got to change to online. Then we can close this again. Really close. Okay, then if that's all good, we're going to say room go to. It was room in game, I think. Yep, that's all good. Room in game. Very nice, very nice. So now, if the password doesn't match, they are trying to break into someone's account. Show message. And something non-specific. So we're going to say username, password, mismatch detected. So we're going to tell them which is wrong. They're not going to know if the password's wrong or if the username's wrong. Okay, so all good, all good, all good. And I think we've got all the requirements here. Yeah, that's down there. Just get rid of some of these open spaces. Okay, let's go back to the top. So when they click login, it's gonna pop up with a dialog box that's gonna say username. They enter the username, it assigns that to global.name. It checks if the file exists. If it does not, it's gonna say you boob, you need to register first. Okay, then it'll exit and then they'll register. If it does exist, then it's gonna initialize the DLL again because we haven't done it yet in this script. It's gonna assign this directory to the variable file. Then we're going to get temp status, which we're going to read a string from that directory. It's going to be the status. Then we're also going to read the password. Then we're going to close that. Always remember to close it. Always remember to close it. Then it says if temp status is online. So if they're already online, it's going to say, hey, this user's already logged in. You know, what are you trying to pull here? Trying to pull a fast one, huh? Punk. Then it's going to say else. So if it's not, so if it's offline, then it's going to say enter your password. The user enters their password. If it's alright, it's going to open that file name again. It's going to change status to online. It's going to close. Okay, it's going to close that up. Then it's going to go to endgame. Else, it's going to say username password mismatch detected. Okay, so that's all good for the login right there. While we're at it, I'm just going to do the logout. Let's go there. Logout. Left pressed. It's very short. It's just, you know, Rini initialize right there. Then it's going to be file equals. I wonder if I've still got this. I do still have it in the clipboard. Good, good, good. Okay, it's going to open that up, and then it's going to say. Oh no! What am I doing? Rini write string file profile status. And it's going to change it back to offline. And it's going to close it. And it's going to go back to the main room. Alright, so initialize it. It sets that to a file variable. Then it writes the string offline to the status and profile. Very good. Done, 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 done. So if this all works, it means that we can now be able to access these. The Rini DLL is going to read them, and it's going to check out if all the information we enter is correct. Okay, here we go. So let's register another one. Let's call him Billy. Yes, Billy has got 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever. Okay, so now if we click login, username. Bob might have been one of them, I can't remember. You need to register first. Okay, apparently Bob does not exist. So let's go find him here. Bill. I think it's Bill. Let's go Bill. Bill. Now we're going to enter his password incorrectly. We're going to enter something that's definitely not his password. Username password mismatch detected. That works. So now let's do things properly. We're going to say Bill, and we know his password was probably 12345. It wasn't. I think it was 54321. I don't know. Let's go Bill. Oh, it's just 1234. Right. Back to Bill. Login. Bill. Okay. 1234. Okay. There we go. It worked. It went into there. Now if we go back into Bill's account, there we go. Bill password status online. Check that out. Okay. So now if we click the logout button, it should change that to offline. If I can find my mouse, I forgot to add it. There we go. So if we go back into Bill's profile here, there we go. It's changed back to offline. So there we go. The Rini files. It's reading, it's writing, it's saving all the stuff in an alternate directory, which I love. I mean, with that you can pretty much save anything anywhere on the user's PC, which is really great. And it really reduces the clutter. I mean, look at this. You've just got, I mean, okay, the user won't see that or that. They'll just have the DLL, they'll have the executable, and they'll have a folder called profiles or whatever if you're running a server. Very simple. That's what I love about this DLL. So, I hope you learned something today. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please feel free to comment, rate, and subscribe for more. I'll be back next time. Thinking of doing some inheritance. If anyone knows, if you're, I don't know, C++ programmer or any other language programmer and you know about inheritance, I'm going to show you how to do that in GameMaker. It'll save you a lot of time. So, stay tuned for more, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.